Great. Well, let's start ahead and get rolling. We have a ton of content today, so feel free to keep using the chat. Let us know where you're dialing in from. I'm seeing some Costa Rica and San Diego. Awesome. Very jealous. I wish I was in Costa Rica right now. Feel free to share what you're looking to learn from. We'll be weaving in some of those questions along the way. So we're going to get started with our content all around how we built this spot recognition editions. This is our first webinar in this series. Over the year, we're going to be taking different types of programs from employee referrals to spot recognition to sales incentives and bringing on some of our favorite customers and clients to really break apart, to peel back the onion, how they built these programs. And it's highly effective time for you to ask questions, to really dig into your own program needs, and to learn from these experts who have been rolling out such successful recognition programs over the last few years. So we'll do a quick round of introductions to let you meet our panelists. We'll go down the line here and start with Carrie. She'll walk through a little bit about her company and what she's excited to share with you today, why recognition is important to her. So welcome, Carrie. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Morgan. I appreciate it. And hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. I'm Carrie Theisen. I'm the Vice President of Global Total Rewards for Medidata Solutions, which is a company based out of the New York City area. I've been working in the field of total rewards for a couple of decades now, and I'm excited to be here because I've really seen this space, specifically rewards and recognition, really expand and grow and become more and more important as we've seen more generations enter the workforce. So again, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Next up, we have Tyler. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you, Morgan. My name is Tyler Cahill. I am with Addison Group, which is a national staffing and consulting firm based out of Chicago. And my background is in industrial organizational psychology. So how can we get the best out of our employees? And when it comes to recognition, what I'm really excited about, I view it as a key driver to any company's engagement strategy. So whether you have a ton of resources to devote to recognition or have to be more creative, I think there's definitely things you can take away from today's session of how can you get started to build a strong recognition program wherever you're at.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Tyler. And we have Alicia. Welcome, Alicia.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Alicia Caffarelli. I'm the Senior Director of Client Success here at Blueboard. I'm really excited about this topic. I personally draw inspiration from hearing stories from our clients, hearing about their programs, and specifically the impact that they've made on their own organization. So I'm really looking forward to Carrie and Tyler sharing that with you. And my hope is that you find some inspiration as well.
Awesome. And I'm Morgan. For those of you I haven't met yet, I run our marketing team here at Blueboard. And so excited to have you here. We've been doing a ton of webinars while we've been at home together. So thank you everyone for joining. And as we leave, of course, we'll ask for your feedback. Want to continue covering awesome topics over the next few weeks together. So let's jump into a quick agenda and housekeeping. Just for everyone to understand, lines will be muted. So if you do have questions, please direct those to the chat as you're doing now, or to the Q&A if that's easier for you. It's your pick at the end of the day. We're going to be bringing in some questions that came through our registration form. So you might see your name pop up along the way. Or we'll also be hoping to weave in some questions throughout. So if something piques your interest, if you want the speaker to dive in a little bit deeper, feel free to throw that out on chat and we'll do our best to cover all the questions along the way. We'll also be having a SHRM PDC code for the professional development credit. Feel free to grab that at the end. And if you do have to drop off early, we'll be recording the session. So feel free to tune into that. We'll be posting that to our blog and sharing an email with everyone who registered next week. So if you do have to miss anything, you'll be able to watch the full recording in a short amount of time. As you use the chat, what we love to do is really let you spread ideas to the group. So a quick housekeeping item, if you check out your chat window now, you'll have a toggle to switch between sending a chat to all panelists or to all panelists and attendees. And as you're comfortable, we recommend you choosing all panelists and attendees just so the entire group can see your commentary. There'll be a lot of great ideas shared today, especially from the audience. So we'd love for you to cascade those out towards the group. So just for a quick agenda, we're gonna have actually each speaker go one by one. So we'll start out with Carrie and the flow will effectively be like so. Why spot recognition? You know, why was that an important part of their engagement strategy? What brought recognition to the forefront? How do they navigate everything from choosing partners to planning out their reward guidelines to gaining executive buy-in? And then from there, how are they focused on socialization? So a program is wonderful, but only if it's adopted. So how do we keep those programs top of mind? How do we build excitement and get people to utilize the reward strategy? And then lastly, what metrics are top of mind? Which ones are we looking at, how regularly, and what impact has been shown to date? So we'll go through those, starting with Carrie and then Tyler. And then as we have time at the end, we'll be able to do Q&A together. So again, keep the questions coming either through the Q&A tool or through live chat. So with that note, we're going to kick it over to Alicia to give us a warm welcome, and then we'll flow through our speakers, and we'll talk to you guys at the end. I'll pass it over to Alicia. Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. So I think now more than ever, the notion of recognition is incredibly important. We're all learning to adjust to this notion of working alone together. And we've all really had to get super creative to connect on new levels. I know even me personally, I resorted to dressing like Carol Baskins from the Tiger King just to put a smile on my teammates' faces via Zoom. So with that being said, I think what's really important to take away now is that a small gesture of appreciation, it goes further than it ever did. So now I think we have the opportunity to really leverage SPOT programs to make that small gesture and to reach out to our employees and to say thank you and show them that they're still appreciated. So with that, I want to turn it over to Carrie. She's going to share about the SPOT program that they built at Medidata, and she's got a lot of great ideas. So take it away, Carrie.
Thanks, Alicia. I appreciate that. So at Medidata, we've had a program in place for several years now. And for us, everything, of course, starts with making the case. And we'll talk just a little bit about the kinds of things that we use to measure. But really, we started with just general statistics. We know that retention's a concern. You know, 66% of organizations now say that they're really concerned about retaining top talent. But then when you turn as a total rewards professional, of course, it's what am I doing to ensure that my rewards programs will retain? 8% of organizations right now are really only effective, say that their rewards programs are effective at being personalized and creating a great solution. But yet at the same time, 91% of employees say non-traditional benefits are important to their job satisfaction. That's becoming more and more and more important. So we knew that it was a big deal. I mean, we knew that we needed to get it right and that we needed to do it well. And so where did we start? You know, I think the very first thing that we started with was really understanding our employee population and understanding that there was a number of generations in the workforce, for example, and you can go to the next slide and we'll talk through that. There were a number of different generations in the workforce. When I started in Total Rewards more than 20 years ago, really at that point, there was only 2 generations in the workforce. And so we have seen more and more generations enter, and they need different things. What you see here is a lot of information, obviously, but really the common theme is whether you're looking at the level of employee in your organization or the generation in the workforce or even gender. Everyone needs different things, but there is an underlying need in that people need flexibility, so that you need to ensure that you have a program that is going to appeal to people at all levels. So what did we do at Medidata? How did we know, for example, what our employees actually needed? Well, we used a number of internal and external surveys. And on the next slide, you can see that we pulled some external data. So we went out to LinkedIn and some other talent acquisition kind of sources. And we said, okay, what are the key roles in our job, in our organization? And what do surveys tell us that they need? So we are a healthcare technology company. We knew that we have a lot of application developers. We've got data scientists. We've got product managers. And we pulled this data. And if you look here at the number 1 and 2 for every single one of them, we could see that this group of key people balance is valuing a couple things. 1, compensation and benefits, and work-life balance. And so from there then, we were able to say, okay, what do we know that we need to have in place foundationally to appeal to this group of people? And so if you could go on to the next slide, that would be wonderful. I think that the thing that we really understood is that when you kind of, it's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you think about it that way. You have to have the foundation set before you can even think about a recognition program. So my challenge to all of us is, are we doing what we need to do to ensure that we have competitive base salaries in place, that we have bonus and incentive plans in place? Do we have a sound problem, Alicia?
Yeah, it's looking.
Actually, I'm hearing you fine, Carrie.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
keep going.
in the chat that some people can't hear.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think it's okay. I can work with them one-on-one. Feel free to keep going.
I think all of us in the whole universe on WebEx all at once, or on but anyway, foundationally, just making sure that we've got it in place. And so if you don't know if you're paying competitive salaries, check. If you don't have bonus and incentive plans in place that are going to align the goals of the organization with payments to the employee to drive the kind of behaviors that you need, check. If you don't have a long-term incentive plan in place, that's something to really think about, because you can't use rewards and retention as important and as key as they are to meet needs, baseline needs that you should be meeting in other places. So we made sure that we had those in place. We sort of checked the box. And the next step for us was really determining what our culture needs. And that started with our engagement survey. So we went out again, pulling from our internal employee surveys and pulling from external surveys, understanding that lots of people needed flexibility. And we knew that working parents said that flexibility was really important. And so we started putting some flexible work options in. We sort of pivoted and said, okay, what do we need to do about our paid time off plans? We added unlimited PTO. We added some pretty advanced flexible work scheduling and some progressive parental and paid leave policies. We ensured that we had foundational things in place for our remote work environment. So again, to add flexibility. Then we surveyed our organization again, and we found, okay, people were pretty much okay with their compensation and benefits, although you're never going to get 100% of employees saying that they feel like that's wonderful. Pretty okay with our flexible work options, but what we started to hear is we need to feel recognized and we need to feel like our contributions are important. And so we really started to set a strategy in place to build our recognition program. And so when we look at our recognition program, we think of it in 3 levels. We first of all have a social recognition. So this is a peer-to-peer recognition process. We use an online platform to do that, where employees can go on, recognize their peers, and anyone that can go on the platform can sort of see the kinds of things that employees are saying just to say thank you to each other. Was just important to make sure that we had that in place. Then we have a financial, just a spot bonus. This is a cash bonus that managers can use to give out to their employees. And then experiential as well. We wanted to make sure that employees had the choice between a spot bonus and a program like Blueboard, where they could choose an experience or an adventure. We felt like both were really, really important. One, because sometimes when you live in an expensive place like New York, we have employees that need to keep the lights on, essentially. So they would always choose the cash. But the experience is important for us too. The one thing that we really found is that when you have a manager who can give an employee the choice of an experience, that employee, it creates a memory, and that memory is always tied to your company. And so if you give them a spot bonus and they're using it to pay a bill, they're not going to remember that in a year versus an experience. And so again, with the idea that we had lots of different kinds of people and they had lots of different kinds of needs, we wanted to make sure we were meeting all of those needs. And so again, we offered all 3. And so the strategy, I think, in the overall program is that we wanted to align everything we were doing with recognition directly to our mission and values. And so first of all, we wanted to make sure that there was daily recognition all the time. Daily recognition from peer to peer, daily recognition from managers to employees. This is just every single day. We wanted as many people as possible who are doing good work to feel like we appreciated their good work. But then we wanted the very best performance to rise to the top. And so the next thing we did was we created an award program. We have quarterly awards that are aligned to our the mission and the values that our president and CEO set every single year. And those quarterly awards then recognize the top 4 teams or people each quarter in each of our 4 company pillars. Then we have one annual award, which we call our Founders Award. And this is the top team or performer throughout the year. Each of the people that win a quarterly award or an annual award are receiving a cash prize, they're receiving a trophy, and we are producing a video about their achievement, and then that's being shown to all of our employees globally. So this is something then that we were able to take sort of our recognition program one step further. And the question comes then, after you have this set, how do you brand it? How do you communicate it? And so there's a couple of things that we have done that we have found to be really helpful as we've really thought about branding and communicating our awards. Just for our people team, for our human resources team, we have branded pretty much everything we've done. So every initiative, whether it is through recognition and rewards, or whether it's through our talent acquisition, any of the things that we're doing digitally with our HRIS projects, anything is branded with one of these, we call them our pillars. So for example, the reason and the purpose that we do each thing, we want to make sure that it's branded so that employees will start to recognize as we're communicating what it is that we're trying to do. So for example, all of the things that my team does for rewards and recognition is branded amazing brand and experience, because we want to make sure that the employee experience rises to the top. And so throughout our communications, and we have lots of different vehicles that we use to communicate, we're always branding these things. So if you want to go on to the next slide, and we'll look at some of the examples of ways and things that we are communicating. We're doing it in lots of different ways. We have our intranet. We're doing blog posts and articles. We have what we call our brand builder initiative, communications throughout the organization. We have old-fashioned newsletters. We use Slack. Medix is, again, our internal intranet. And we've got stories and videos and all kinds of things that we're using all the time to make sure that people know about these initiatives. And you can go on to the next slide, Morgan, thanks. And then, of course, we're measuring. So as we said, we do pulse surveys on a regular basis. We have an engagement survey once a year. We use our engagement survey data to measure that. We're also always looking at utilization. So everything from the percentage of people that are managers in each department that are using this, all the way down to just year over year and that kind of thing. And then we get our employee feedback through surveys, and we do focus groups. The examples here on the bottom it's actually feedback that we get directly from Blueboard on their experiences. And as you can see, the actual metrics of the people that have used this are really positive. And then, of course, we post our stories. Our employee stories get posted internally on our intranet. We've had employees do lots of different things, from sailing around New York, having a dinner cruise. I think this is a sail out in San Francisco. One of the things that was so great for us, that's actually really timely, is we, like most other companies, completely stopped our travel as soon as the COVID-19 crisis happened. We were really pleased to see that Blueboard pivoted and added in-home experiences for our employees. And so we are able to continue the rewards and recognition strategies as people are sheltering in place at home. So it's been an awesome experience for us. It's been great for our employees. We are really, really pleased with the way that this is turning out. And then we have another survey again that we're going to be measuring next month in May. And we'll be able to look again for another year sort of how our program is developed.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. One of the questions that came through that I'm curious if you can answer for us was, how do you measure top performer?
We work very closely with our talent acquisition team. We tend to put employees in 4 quadrants. You know, I think a lot of people have 9 boxes. We use a 4 box, and so we're always measuring potential and performance. We don't do traditional performance ratings. We are one of those organizations that got rid of performance scores, and so we tend to measure it based on that 4 box matrix of potential and talent. But we don't have a requirement for a manager to have somebody be necessarily a top performer to receive recognition, reward. We truly do it just based on project basis or really just daily performance. So.
Awesome. I'm seeing a couple questions come through about the in-home experiences. I'm happy to answer that for everybody. So oh, thanks, Morgan. Morgan just shared a link for all of you as well. So for us at Blueboard, we definitely saw what was going on in the world, and we didn't want to lose that notion of being able to recognize and appreciate people. So our curation team worked really hard to build in-home experiences. We've been really fortunate to have a really creative team, and there's a lot of vendors out there doing great things. And so really what this allows you to do is continue to reward and recognize people. And in-home experiences are a lot of different things. So it could be something, one thing that just came up, which I was really excited about, was a truffle class. And so they actually send you a box of delicious food with truffles, and then they do a live cooking demonstration. So there's a lot of notions now with vendors out there where there's a portion of learning or trying something new. There's creative boxes for kids where you can experiment and build things with your children at home. So we have a lot of different options that we're happy to share more information with you about while keeping everyone home and safe. Cool. One other thing that came up, which Carrie or Tyler, for either of you, was just the notion of keeping in mind cultural differences with employees in different countries. So is there any recommendations you have with that specific topic?
I can start and then I'll let Tyler fill in. I think for us, the one thing that we've been really sensitive to is to not try from the United States to dictate what we think employees in our other countries would like or appreciate. So we've leaned very, very hard on our in-country staff when it comes to the kinds of things that would be meaningful. And outside of just rewards and recognition, I mean, just from a benefits perspective, a lot of our fringe benefits vary from country to country because of the fact that we understand that people in different countries have different needs culturally. So I think the one thing I can do is just lean really hard for people who are actually living every day in the place that you're looking to have that benefit or that recognition program.
Perfect, thank you. Morgan, why don't we go ahead into the next slide? We actually had some amazing questions that came in before the webinar, so we can start there. So the first question was around choosing partners. What were your top 3 factors to consider when choosing a vendor for your program? And Carrie, why don't we have you kick this off?
Yeah, that would be great. I think for us, the employee experience was always top of mind for us. That was probably the most critical thing is we're really sensitive to that. So Blueboard, for example, does a really nice concierge service for our employees. That was something that was really critical. Choice in general, just the variety of programs, and then cost.
And I would agree exactly with what Carrie said, is we wanted to focus on providing rewards that were experience-based, just because you hear all the time from media and research that millennials and Gen Zs care a lot about these experiences that they can take part in. And while there's a lot of different generations in the workforce right now, Blueboard was able to offer a variety of rewards that individuals could take part in. So you're never going to please everyone with one offering. So why not try to make as many offerings as possible so everyone feels like they can get the reward that best benefits them?
That's great. We can go to the next question, Morgan. Awesome. So avoiding obstacles. What obstacles did you face in building a recognition program that you weren't expecting? And how did you overcome that? And Tyler, I'm gonna let you kick that off.
Yes, my program is very brand new, so this is definitely something I've experienced over the past few months. Of course, there's many obstacles that come up, but the one that comes top of mind reading this is having individuals understand the difference between a reward and recognition, meaning you could have the best reward that any company has ever offered, but if you're not making clear what you're trying to recognize, how that ties into business goals, where your company's headed, it doesn't have as strong of an impact. I know Carrie mentioned that she ties her program into mission and values, and that's what we did on our side, and what I tell anyone who's looking into designing the program. The more you can tie it into your business's core values or core mission, it ensures people understand what they need to do to be recognized, and they know what those behaviors look like in order to live your values or to live your mission in order to achieve your organizational success.
Great, we can go on to the next question. So this is actually something I'm starting to be a theme in some of the chat, which is staying relevant. So every year they have a luncheon to honor employee anniversaries. However, when shelter in place, how do we make things like these still special? And then I would say further, another question that I'm seeing, if either of you have any ideas on, aside from this specific question, it's also the notion, is there any things you can do that don't involve monetary value? So I will let Tyler lead that one off.
Yeah, so for our company, obviously we've gone fully remote. So there's a lot of interaction that is lost, and one of them are those team celebrations. So what we've been doing on our side is, hey, if we normally have a team lunch on this date, or if we onboard or welcome new hires with a team lunch, can we send them like a Postmates gift card or some type of food vendor gift card so they're able to order their favorite lunch on the day we were going to celebrate. When it comes to, again, thinking with cost in mind, is what are activities you can do as a group that can still cause for celebration and engagement that may not come with a hefty price tag. I know through PowerPoint, our teams have gotten very creative of creating their own favorite live games like Jeopardy, Bard Trivia, Family Feud, Pictionary, where it can be something else to do during a Zoom happy hour or Zoom call that doesn't require a ton of financial costs on your end.
Yeah, I love that. We at Blueboard are doing the same thing. We actually had a Tiger King themed happy hour, which was super fun. We've done music trivia. We're actually doing a live dumpling making demonstration next week. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great ways to virtually connect that at no cost. Carrie, do you have any comments on this question as well?
It's funny that this particular question came up because we actually had this situation on one of our teams. It wasn't an employee anniversary, but it was a special team event that happened once a quarter. And for one of our managers, he sneakily, I think, found out what everyone's favorite pizza was. And then during the team meeting, which was all on Zoom, he ordered pizzas to be delivered to everyone's houses all at the same time. And that was fun for them. Although he did actually ended up having to tell them in the middle that he was doing it because people were starting to turn the pizza guy away. But that was a really nice surprise. And I think it was something that his employees appreciated. So, I mean, I think not necessarily that, but just really thinking outside the box. If there's ever a time to be creative and to do something different, even if it seems crazy, now's the time.
I love that. And then Carrie, I have one more specific question for you, and then would love to shift over to Tyler. How do you get past the call of someone doing their job well compared to going above and beyond while selecting the top team or performer? So I think just kind of diving into the notion of how do you select those quarterly and annual winners?
Of course, I think that's a great question. So we allow any employee in the company to nominate any other employee in the company for a quarterly award. So open nominations, and it can be for individuals or teams. We have created a form that they fill out just really quickly online to submit to us. And then we had each one of our, so we call them their senior leadership team. So each one of the direct reports to our CEO has to nominate someone on their team to participate as part of the nominating committee. The nominating committee then goes through all of those nominations. My team vets them and makes it an easy process for them. And then they vote, essentially. So it's a very cross-functional team. It's global. We have, these are global awards. So we have people from all of our major regions and all of our major business units. We found that that was really, really important because, for example, we've had nominations for a project that one team thought was really great, but it caused a lot of extra work for another team. And so we needed to make sure that we sort of checked the box and that it was truly an award that was worth winning. So once the nominations are complete, the voting goes on through that nomination committee and we go from there.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and shift over to Tyler, and you're going to talk about what you have built at Addison Group. So take it away.
Yeah, so to complement Carrie's many years of a program, our program is brand new, so I can definitely share with you the process we took. So similar, like many others, we recognize that recognition is a key driver to our employees' engagement and a key driver to our engagement strategy. So we've grown tremendously over the past few years, and we wanted to dig into, were we doing the best to recognize our employees, and how are we recognizing them with what rewards? So what we did is we kind of laid out line by line of every single reward or type of recognition we are providing to team members. And what we found was a vast majority of those rewards and recognition were geared towards our client-facing teams. Being a staffing and consulting firm, many of our individuals are in recruiters or sales roles. So a lot of the incentives and one-off contests or rewards are geared towards them. But as we've grown our operations staff, there wasn't as many rewards that allowed them to feel like they were being recognized and rewarded for their contributions and the value that they're bringing their team. The next component was President's Club. So for those of you who are not familiar, President's Club for us is a sales kind of year-long reward where you have one financial goal. If you hit that financial goal through your sales, you qualify. So again, that program was kind of, you were competing more against yourself as a recruiter or salesperson, but on the corporate team, we had about 160, 200 team members, and only 3 could qualify. And they qualified through this kind of ranking process where managers went in, ranked their employees, then they got together as all of operation leadership and went back and forth of like, hey, my person did X, my person did Y, well, I think this person did this person that. And we heard over and over, our managers dreaded those meetings. They hated having those meetings because they hated the feeling of having to compete against other operation teams that they should have good collaboration with. We also noticed on our recruiter and sales side with President's Club, while they were, again, had that one financial goal for the year, and if they attain it, they won. If they didn't attain it, a lot of them felt like I worked the entire year to achieve this, and something happened here, something happened there, and if I don't attain that level, it almost feels like I'm not getting any sort of recognition from the company. So we wanted to kind of figure out how could we build out a more universal program that could complement our President's Club and allow for more individuals to feel like they're being rewarded and recognized on a more consistent and regular basis. So we're going to go to the next slide. So what we first did, like a lot of projects that teams take on, you look at your data. And we do a lot of survey data. We survey our people annually with engagement surveys. We do stay surveys, so at the 90-day, at the 1-year mark. And we also do exit surveys. And all of those touch on recognition in some way or the other. So what we looked at and what we found is through this data, 51% of our employees did not feel motivated by the current recognition process, meaning we want to build a program that encourages and entices people to push themselves, to go above and beyond, to go the extra mile, and over half of our employees didn't feel like that. Another component we saw is 40% of employees did not feel their contributions were being properly recognized, and that was particularly heavy on our corporate shared services team. So knowing those, we wanted to kind of think through, okay, if we know recognition is important, we know what we currently have isn't necessarily working, what could we do to broaden it? So we got together a task force in about early to mid 2019, made up of individuals across the business, and kind of did this reoccurring focus group of what's working, what's not working, what is this group doing, what is that group doing, and how can we pull it together? And through those conversations, we found that a lot of people, whether they're in a client-facing role or a more back office operational role, they wanted to be recognized for those intangibles, those something that you can't particularly measure, not just focus on metrics or revenue or what their output was. But again, going the extra mile to help a team member maybe develop a skill, or train that new hire that just joined your team, or you have someone who maybe went on vacation or was on mat leave, and you to kind of step up and take on more work. Just ways that individuals were going above and beyond in their efforts to provide contributions to the business. It also was good timing because we were re-envisioning our core values. So this allowed us to revamp our recognition process and pair them with the values. So as we're rolling this out, individuals can better understand what the values are, what they mean, what it means to live them, and ultimately be rewarded and recognized for living those values in their daily, weekly, monthly projects and tasks. Slide. So we developed a higher performance. So higher performance is now our branded recognition program that will encompass all current and any future rewards that we offer. So the first one we offered was our instant hire, and that's our spot bonus program. And how it works is each vertical leader is presented with specific budget they're allowed for their managers to tap into to give spot bonuses based on an individual's contribution. While we as a people strategy team provide recommendations on what deserves this level of bonus versus that level, it's ultimately up to that vertical president and those managers of how they choose to distribute their funds, because they know the efforts and the contributions their team members are making more than anyone else. We then went into to kind of redesign how we can recognize individuals more consistently and regularly across the business, and that is where our Higher Achievers Award comes in. And the Higher Achievers Award is a peer-nominated monthly award where individuals can be recognized for their efforts of going above and beyond and living one of our business's core values. How it works is an individual is nominated by a peer, and then very similar to other programs, we have a recognition committee made up of individuals across the business, just like Carrie was saying. So you have individuals who can understand and explain projects more. And they review those nominations and ultimately select who is the winner of the Higher Achievers Award for that month. Those individuals then receive some non-monetary rewards, as well as entered into a Blueboard award on a quarterly basis. And then lastly, we have our President's Club, and that's something, again, that we are proud of and want to keep, but we just wanted to expand out our offering to be a more holistic approach. As you can see, our President's Club is for the top 5 to 10% of the company, and that's probably not going to grow percentage-wise a lot. So we wanted to add in more tiers where there's more options for individuals to be rewarded and recognized on a more consistent and regular basis.
Hey, Tyler, could you elaborate with us a little bit more on the notion of voting committee? So how do people get selected? You know, who should really be on a voting committee?
So just like Carrie, it was almost funny because like we did the exact same thing. We tapped into our senior level executives and asked them to provide recommendations of individuals who should be on the committee. One thing we are doing is with this committee, we're asking individuals to serve at least 3 months, but we don't want individuals to be locked in that role for all of eternity. meaning we want to mix it up so other individuals think that they can contribute and help select who wins these awards, but also so individuals don't feel like that they're being constantly dragged into these monthly meetings, and they can commit for a certain amount of time and then step back and let someone else tag in and take on that role.
That's great, thank you.
If you want to go to the next slide. So how we're socializing the higher performance program. Again, like Carrie said, it's almost like she's like 4 to 5 years in the future with us. Branding, I feel like, is very important. So higher performance, you may think it's cheesy, but we were thinking of, okay, how can you brand this to be more Addison specific? So it's not just like the All-Star, the High Five, the Wow Award. Well, we're a staffing firm, we hire people, we want people to achieve higher performance, like HIGHER. So we kind of put a kind of play on words with that and came up with the higher performance program to help build more excitement and to help people kind of have more of a brand to it. We started off with an email campaign head off by our CEO to kind of announce it, not to go into full details, but know it's coming. That was then followed up by emails from individuals' vertical leadership, and then other emails that came out about trainings and webinars. We put together a page on our shared internet to highlight all the resources that we have available. We had live trainings and webinars and recordings that people can tap into, whether they start 3 weeks ago or they start 3 years from now. They're able to understand the context, the reason why, how this program works. This week, I'm very excited. Our CEO has agreed to devote his podcast of the week to recognition and the importance of recognition in the company. So he's definitely going to reinforce it that way. And then when we're announcing winners, which our first winners for this program will be announced in the next week or two, and we're having them be announced via multiple social channels. So we're going to have kind of, not plaques, but pages that marketing puts together that we can share on LinkedIn, on our other social media platforms, and then our internal newsletter that can announce people, see who got rewarded, why they got rewarded, and help kind of join in on that celebration. And then lastly, the metrics we're measuring. So employee feedback. Obviously, I will be the first one to say, anytime you make a program out kind of from scratch and the first time through, it's not going to be perfect. And no matter how many times you get together focus groups, there's going to be things you miss. So we want to run with it, see what works, and maybe provide some tweaks in the coming months. Utilization, if people aren't using it, you can make the best program ever. If people aren't going in and nominating other individuals, there's probably something you can do to make the process easier, more clear, or more enjoyable. And lastly, our annual engagement survey data. With recognition, like I said at the beginning, is a kind of known as a key driver for your overall engagement strategy. So if we see individuals feeling more pleased with the recognition program, hopefully we see their overall engagement kind of tick up over the coming months and years. And at the bottom, we actually partnered with Blueboard last year to kind of start piloting out this program. And what we found is individuals loved it. They really loved the option to choose their own experiences, and they weren't told, hey, you can only do this, or you're going to get a plaque or a certificate. They had the ability to go in, and it's been super flawless on Blueboard's end of making it. Once the award gets shipped off, nothing on our end. It's easy. They work with Blueboard, and it's very easy on both the user side, but also on the management side.
Great, thank you, Tyler. One question that actually came through for you was, what was the engagement survey trend for you this past year, or did you see any trends in the past year?
So again, this is our first time rolling this out. But what we did see, which I think is interesting, and something any individual who feels like I don't have a lot of funds to spend on a program, we did a survey focused on just our corporate shared services team. And what we found is they valued recognition more than rewards, meaning they thought it was more important for their performance to be recognized by a leader, by a peer, than they needed a reward. And we hear that a lot too with the other one-off programs teams do, is it's great to get a gift card, to get a bonus, to get a day off, but the time a manager says to like, hey, Morgan, you absolutely knocked it out of the park this past week. I'm so happy with what you did with XYZ, because that helps our company do ABC. So I love seeing that. Awesome job. I'm so proud of you. Your effort's not going unnoticed. Enjoy this gift card. Go have a fun night out. Again, they like the reward, but they care more about having it be known that their work is being valued and appreciated by someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Let's go ahead and we'll shift over. We have a couple more questions that our fantastic audience sent in before. So let's start with the notion of buy-in. I think when you're evaluating new technology or you're rolling out a new program, buy-in from executive team is incredibly important. Tyler, you just mentioned that your CEO is actually doing a podcast on recognition, which is fantastic. So I'm gonna let you start with this.
I think with our senior executives, the biggest way that's going to get them engaged in a new program is showing them the data, is looking at the data you have through survey data or other activity data. If you're not running a survey, I know a lot of teams are using Slack. Do you see your Slack channel kind of that's focused on sharing fun activities, recognition, shout outs? Are a lot more people engaging in that? Do you see a lot of people sending team shout outs or team recognition? That could also be a good kind of foot in the door. But for us, we did a lot of surveying. So we looked at data, presented it, and then presented the case why of other companies that have deployed a strong recognition program. Here's how it's tied into their engagement, which then can correlate with production, with retention, and with overall financial success.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So about training managers, I think this is definitely a huge component that you touched on. How do you engage and train managers on giving effective recognition? There's also a question that came through that I'm going to tag on to this multi-part, which is who's making the choice in some instances between how to actually recognize. So whether it's cash or experience, it looks like, are we putting that in the manager's hands and the employee's hands? So I'll start with this question and go to you, Tyler.
Yeah, so, okay, so which one do we start with how we decide who gets what reward or how to train and engage?
Yeah, let's start with how you decide who gets what reward.
Yeah, so for us, again, we have that instant hire, which is more of that spot bonus, and then we have the hire achiever. The instant hire can only be rewarded by a manager, meaning it has to be your direct leader who sees that you've gone above and beyond for some project, some task, and they're choosing to request a spot bonus, which is a Blueboard award, be given to you. On the Higher Achievers Award, again, like Carrie, it's like, again, we keep saying you're 4 years in the future for where we are. It's more of that peer nominated process where it doesn't have to be your direct leader that spotlights you. It doesn't have to be a fellow team member. It can be someone else that says, hey, I see you went above and beyond with this project or with this task. I think it's important that that achievement gets recognized on a more wide scale level.
Great. Carrie, anything you want to chime in on either of these questions?
Yeah, I think that right now, most of the time it's managers for us making the choice between the rewards, but we are doing as much as we can to push the choice to the employee, right? So again, between ours, it's the cash or the experience. We want employees to have that choice. And so again, back to the question about engaging and training managers, we have a full complement of training programs that our managers go through. So it's difficult for us to add more just for this, but we've used a lot of different things. We've used LinkedIn Learning, we've used articles, push things out to managers. We have what we call the Buzz, which is our weekly newsletter that goes out just about what's going on in the company. We'll put little articles on there. So there's lots of, I think we try to push it out to managers in as many different ways as we possibly can, just hoping that hearing that message multiple times will help it to stick.
Yeah.
One thing I would want to add to that too, because it brought up a good point. Again, it's hard to add more on the plate to leaders. So when giving effective recognition, if you already have topics or course around like giving effective feedback, it's kind of the same in sense of you wanting to course correct. You're wanting to have that positive reinforcement. So if there's a process you take for how individuals are giving feedback to their employees already, there's probably a good chance that that model you use or that process you use could be replicated or altered in a way so that an individual knows how to recognize individuals and what needs to go in to another individuals know how to repeat that behavior, or what behavior they did that should be recognized and what behaviors that they should keep continue doing. That made it all sense, that long gibberish answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing one more question. I think we can wrap up after that. But one of the things that I think is involved with that is manager participation. So if you're seeing managers not participate, or if they're, let's say, not taking it seriously or taking the time to recognize, is there any recommendations you can have on how to drive that participation or how to measure or adjust? And I'll open that up to either of you.
I mean, I can take that to start. It's kind of interesting. One of the things that we needed to do as our program matured was to firm up the budget, right? Like, so just making sure that we understood exactly how we were going to budget for this and how we were going to allocate that out. And so one of the things that we sort of counterintuitively saw increased participation is when we let leaders know this is your budget for recognition, and if you don't spend it, we're going to give it to someone else. And that magically worked. So we are seeing, you know, if the money's there, they'll use it, and so that was helpful. I will say that the peer-to-peer recognition, just that sort of free, really, that took off by itself. So just making sure that we knew that employees knew about it. That is something that I think there was a deep need for that in the organization, so we didn't have to do anything to push that.
Great. I'm going to jump in just really quickly. A lot of people have been asking, some specific questions about your own programs. We'd love to find the time just to work one-on-one with you. So if you've been curious to learn more about Blueboard, we're rolling a really quick poll. If you are wanting to connect with our team, all you have to do is say yes. And that means that we will be able to connect with you even tomorrow to set up some time and learn more about your program. But beyond spot recognition, we actually partner with companies on programs like anniversary awards, referral incentives, sales incentives, and president's clubs, or even well-being incentives. So if any of those are top of mind for you, we'd be happy to borrow some time, walk you through our menu, including all of the in-home experiences that Alicia was alluding to earlier. So we'll let this poll run briefly, but yeah, we'd love to stay in touch after the event, and hopefully this was valuable for you. I'm going to jump on to our next, and we have about 5 more minutes or so, so we'll keep taking some audience questions. In the meantime, I'll turn it back over to Alicia to roll through a few more.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. And thanks everybody for participating in that poll for us. So one of the things that another question came through was, what if you don't have an intranet or use Slack? How do you get that communication out internally? How do you engage? Are there other ways that you have recommendations for? And again, this was just the notion, sorry, in recognition. So when you're recognizing people, how else can you communicate?
I think I can take this. So I know for us, a lot of our communication comes over email. And on top of that, when we're trying to promote or engage people with new programs, a lot of leaders already have existing team meetings. So we ask like, hey, I know you have a team meeting on Friday. Do you mind if I join in the last 5 minutes and just plug our program, answer any questions they have, and make sure they know where to go to for any resources. It's just very vital that you have individuals know how they can participate and where those resources live in case you have questions, or who they should be reaching out to in case you have questions on your recognition program.
Awesome. I saw a couple more come in. lots of questions on voting, which I love. So how do we keep voting objective? Do you allow for subjectivity? And I think along those lines, is there any specific guidelines that you're using to determine who the winner is?
Carrie, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, that's fine. So for our employee award process, it's pretty straightforward. We usually have a group meeting of the nominating committee where we'll discuss the projects and then they vote. And it's, they can choose their first and their second and their third choice, and we weight their responses, and the winner is the winner. We're not trying to control it. It can be subjective, it's fine. But what we've found is that the awards that are chosen, actually, I think have been pretty solid. You know, we really haven't had an issue with worrying about subjectivity or anything like that.
And I think knowing that it is impossible to eradicate any sort of bias someone may have for a project or for a team. So making it as objective as possible, but knowing there's always going to be instances where subjectivity might come into play. That's just natural human nature, and it's not something we can't control, but just doing your best to set up a cross-functional committee so every team member or every team that could be nominated has someone that could have a voice to better explain a project or a task that a team was doing.
I agree.
I have one more question, I think, that will bring us to the top of the hour. So you worked with potentially other vendors, or you evaluated other vendors before you chose Blueboard. And so I think people are just looking for what was the criteria you looked at and what distinguished Blueboard, it looks like.
Tyler, I'll let you take this. Since
So again,
it's been a while
why
for
was
me.
it? Yeah. So I wasn't necessarily in the actual vetting process, but I was a part of the group that was discussing what we're looking for. And the first thing that comes down to is cost. Again, you could find the perfect match between a company and a vendor, but if you're not aligned on cost, it's probably not going to be a strong or good partnership. When you take that out of consideration, it's thinking what motivates my team members, what excites them. We did a similar survey what Carrie did, where she was calculating, seeing what interests my employees, what do they care about. And what we found is people really wanted experiences. We already have a end of year bonus program, so they have that. And they wanted an ability where if they're not able to go on our President's Club trip, they wanted an ability where they could be rewarded with a other type of experience that could make memories with their friends, families, or even fellow coworkers.
Awesome. Carrie, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope. I would agree
We're all
with
good?
what Tyler said. Yep.
Perfect. Well, this was so wonderful. I think for me and Alicia, also just such a great education into hearing more about the backstory, how Blueboard came to be. But thank you again to all of our panelists, to Carrie, to Alicia, and Tyler for sharing so much knowledge and all of the behind the scenes information. I shared a link, and actually as you leave the webinar, there'll be a survey. So please let us know if this was helpful for you as an attendee, if you'd like to see more of these how we built this events. We'd love to put them on for you. Please take a moment to recognize someone for going above and beyond with Lift Up. It's a wonderful way to brighten someone's day. And we are also featuring 2 more upcoming webinars. If you go to our resources page at blueboard.com, you can sign up for those. One will be all about harnessing emotional intelligence, which is so important now as we are distanced, to really cue in to those motives and needs of your employees, even over a Zoom call. And also 10 tips for boosting employee morale. Now that we've been in shelter in place for a while, how do you keep those spirits lifted? How do you keep those Zoom calls exciting? So we'll be covering both of those topics over the coming weeks, and we'd love to see you online.